Many people, family get-togethers aren't always a perfect picture. They can cause a lot of stress.
My family's perfect. I don't know about yours. From politics to old issues that were never resolved, time together requires strategies for staying out of those sticky situations. Dr. John Duffy is a clinical psychologist, a best-selling author, and also speaker on relationships and parenting, and he's here today to talk to us about this. And I admit it's very stressful because in our family we are trying to coordinate many different celebrations of Christmas and be respectful to everyone's family.
Right, all the marriages and those in-laws.
Yes. Right. Yeah, there's so many different dynamics involved. Everyone has their traditions, everyone has their wishes, and everyone comes into this holiday season with their baggage from the year. So it's an incredibly stressful time of year for most everybody, even people who love this time of year. I think they come in with this anticipatory anxiety, like this might not go the way I'm hoping.
It's true, and this year there's a lot of heat coming from the election still, unresolved, conflicts between the way people feel in your family, as well as, if you've lost a loved one and there's inner turmoil about who gets what and things like that. So what do you hear from your patients about the holidays and about the stress they feel?
There's so much unnecessary anxiety coming into this season, and a lot of unresolved hurt, even from a year ago, from what happened, at Christmas time a year ago, that I think it's really hard for people to come in clean, to come in feeling like, okay, I'm just going to talk with my family. It's going to be perfectly fine. I think by and large, it's loaded. It's a loaded time of year, and all the emotion from the year kind of comes to a head because this is the one time where we're all getting together. So if something's going to go wrong, it's likely to go wrong now.
It's funny, I will admit I had a situation with my sister-in-law where it was stressful at Christmas because of feeding her children on her schedule. So she sent me an email saying these are the things that you could do to make it easier on me next time.
At 9:05, please do this. At 3:45, please do this.
Next year, you could make it easier on me by doing this. But it's true, we're trying to put it on someone else, but there are things you should do yourself, right?
Yes, yeah.
Take personal responsibility.
I think the more self-aware and others-aware you are, I think the more you can avoid some of the pitfalls that families fall into so often, So if you're kind of aware, like, this person seems a little quieter than usual, I'm just going to check in on them. Just taking the emotional temperature of the family or of any given situation or conversation at any point in time gives you the opportunity to intervene. And I'm not against intervening wildly. I'm not against going in there and saying, okay, we're not going to talk about that right now. Even if you bring a little humor into it, if you know you're heading into something that is emotionally loaded, I'm not against saying, you know what, we're not going to do that right now.
So
we'll say that for
it.
January. Oh, absolutely. I think it's completely reasonable to acknowledge it instead of just watching the train wreck happen in slow motion, which I think we do a lot of the time.
But it's tough because, as Amy mentioned, it could be your sister, it could be your brother, someone you're very close with, and it's hard not to be a little offended or get defensive or kind of harbor that turmoil and let it fester a little bit by the time her sister's coming to visit, saying like, I'm not going to do those things. So how do you kind of let down that defiance and be cooperative without being pissed off?
Right. Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
It's a great question, and part of it is recognizing this is family. Everybody's coming into this a little pissed off, a little anxious. So to be the family therapist is not the worst place to be, and then you're the understanding one. You know what I mean?
Listen maybe more than talking.
Listen maybe more than talking.
But sometimes you always end up as the family therapist, or you always end up as the one compromising.
I feel it's you.
It's not. I'm really lucky. Our family actually doesn't have this turmoil. Everybody just gets drunk, so it's fine. So all that goes away. But no, we really don't. So I feel very fortunate, but I know a lot of people who have this over and over, and the holidays aren't always fun for them. They're not looking forward to that.
No, and I think you can set a tone even beforehand. Like if you know something difficult's coming, if you know like, oh, Grandma's going to talk about Timmy's grades and he's getting D's, we can say, you know what, that's off limits until January. You know what I mean? We'll talk about it then.
I have literally called and said, do not bring up the math. Do not.
Perfect.
Like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
we're not talking about it.
The biggest problem I find around this time of year is boundary setting, and that we don't do enough of it. And so between a lack of boundaries and excessive alcohol intake. Sometimes
Alcohol.
the boundary gets super loose and we end up saying something we regret, something hurtful, because we just don't know where our tipping point is,
Right.
and we cross the line.
Someone has 3 glasses of wine, then they say, how's the math? And
Yeah.
then you know, you're like, I told them not to say
Exactly.
anything
How's the
about the math.
Right, right.
So the alcohol is a big deal because sometimes you don't even realize that you're a little looser than you might have been.
Absolutely. You know, when we talk about boundaries, you know, they get looser and more permeable when alcohol is involved. So you have to be aware. And I'm not suggesting abstinence because, like you're saying,
Right.
Tiffany, you know, sometimes
Makes
that's
you jolly.
It makes you jolly and it gets you through. You know, like so not every family works as well as yours. For some of us, it just gets us through, and that's good enough. But if you don't know your tipping point and you head into hurtful territory, we all know how ugly that can be. We've all seen it. We've all witnessed it. Yeah.
What about the election stuff specifically? Because there are, I think some people dealt with it over Thanksgiving, but others didn't get a chance if they were at the other side of the family. And it can still be a very touchy topic for many people. So what do you suggest there?
I find this a disheartening topic, honestly, to talk about, because it seems that families should be able to talk about politics and have differing points of view
Beliefs.
and share those points of view with each other, you know, around the holidays. This year seems so particularly vitriolic, not taking any sides whatsoever. It just is, you know, there's this divisiveness. And I hope we have a different conversation a year from now, but right now, it feels like too big a risk to bring up. You
So
know,
just don't bring it up.
I think just don't bring it up.
Don't bring it up after a couple glasses of wine.
Play it safe, especially if you're going to bring it up early. Get it out of the way.
But one of the issues too is loss at this time of year.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first Christmas without my mom in 2009, and just looking at that empty seat and thinking, oh, it was like a gut punch every time I walked up there. So it was and the way I dealt with it was by not talking about it. And I don't know if that was so good.
Right.
You know, there's this feeling that, you know, like, let's do business as usual. Let's just celebrate the holiday, and that's going to bring comfort to the person who's lost somebody or the family who's lost somebody.
Yeah.
Having worked with a lot of families in that circumstance, I find that more they want that loss acknowledged and honored, even if it's brief, even if it's a toast or a story or a brief
I'm
prayer.
going to start crying right now.
Right? You know, seriously, right? I mean, we want that acknowledged.
Yes.
And even if it's just for a moment, you know what I mean? It brings us comfort, right? Because, you know, like, I lost somebody around the holidays, and I know what you mean. Like, there's this propensity, like, I don't want to make everybody uncomfortable.
Or start crying.
But it's not right, or start crying.
Yeah.
But that's not such a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, that can be okay.
Nobody likes that, but you know what? There's some, it's
Healing.
cathartic.
It's
yeah,
cathartic.
to do
Yes,
that.
it's cathartic.
I like the idea of a toast. We did that in our family, a prayer and a toast, and everybody cried. But you know what? The rest of the night was so, we felt a release. And everybody just then felt like it was okay to celebrate because it was also okay to be sad.
And what I hear sometimes is that families surprise themselves, and it's joyful because you end up telling stories and celebrating this person in a way you didn't anticipate doing.
I'm
so
glad
sorry,
you came
Amy.
today.
She needed this therapy session.
Thank you, John.
And so does everyone else. If you need more, head to Dr. John Duffy's website. He's got great podcasts, drjohnduffy.com. And there's so much great stuff out there. The holidays are a sensitive time, so be sensitive to those you love. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. I like your family, too. They seem really nice.
They are fun. You're welcome to come anytime
Thank
you'd
you
like.
so much.
We'll toast to your mom as well.